Nice to see you. So we are in Yud Tes Omid Base, as Peter guessed.
Hi, Sylvain. Good evening.
Hi, mate. Hi, Merv.
How you doing?
Right. So, Yud Tes Omid Base, about 10 lines down. Al Elo Mipnei Rosh Hashanah, Val Tishri Mipnei Takonos HaMoedos. We now go back to the Mishnah. The Mishnah on Daf Yud Ches Omid Aleph, and it was telling us which months they send out the messengers to tell everybody when was Rosh Chodesh. And you can imagine it's only for the months where, in fact, there'll be something coming up in that month. Otherwise, it didn't matter terribly. Well, of course, for documents, you'd have to be using something else for a document. But the crucial for the Yomim Tovim, they need to know exactly what date was Chanukah, Purim, as we move through this Mishnah. The Mishnah is Daf Yud Ches Omid Aleph. You haven't got it on your attachment, but you, as we remember, there were these 6 months that they went out for. And we're getting towards the end of that when it talks about they went out for Chanukah and Purim. So Kislev, great, this month. And they also went out for Adar because of Purim. Oh, you may want to put people on mute, Peter, please. So let's go back to your Tes Omid Aleph. So they go out for Elul because of Rosh Hashanah. They went out for Tishri for the, now interesting, it says Mipnei Takonos HaMoedos. And then in 5 lines time, we'll get into Kislev and Adar. But first things first, they're going out for Elul for Rosh Hashanah. Now, do you remember what we learned in Rashi and Tosfos there? They're going out for Elul because they are assuming, the trouble is, how can you possibly know when Rosh Hashanah, the Eidim have to see the moon, and unless you're actually in Yerushalayim on the day when they come there, how are you going to possibly know when Rosh Hashanah was? And therefore, remember we saw the Rashi, what they would generally do, El Bnei Rosh Hashanah, because they would assume, and we'll get to that in a moment, assume that Elul was going to be 29 days, because generally, the vast we'll see in a minute, Elul was 29 days, and therefore they would assume that the next day would be Rosh Hashanah. Now, if that's the case, says the Gemara, Mipnei, have you got it? Al Elul Mipnei, the beginning line is Elul. Elul Mipnei Rosh Hashanah, V'al Tishri Mipnei Takonos HaMoedos. Fixing when the Yomim Tovim will be. What other Yomim Tovim are there? Of course, we've got Yom Kippur, we've got Sukkot, going into Shmini Atzeres, Simchas Torah. Okay, says the Gemara, Kivan de Nafke Lahu Elul, seeing as they're going out for Elul, so they tell Rosh Chodesh Elul, they're telling everybody when Rosh Chodesh Elul was, and then they will make 29 days after that, they will make Rosh Hashanah. So, Kivan de Nafke Lahu Elul, Atishri Lomelu. What is the point of going out for Tishri as well? They're going to make this assumption for Rosh Hashanah. Once you've made that assumption for Rosh Hashanah, then you know, once you've got the first of Rosh Hashanah, be Yom Kippur, the 15th will be Sukkot. What is the point of sending them out for Tishri? Yeah? Let's have a look here. No? Yeah, no Rashi so far. Says the Gemara, V'chi tema, no. Dilma Ibruha Elul. You do need to know because it's possible that Elul was not 29 days, maybe it really was 30, right? Says the Gemara, V'omar Rav Chinana. This comes up in various places. Barkana Omar Rav. Mi'imois Ezra v'Elech. Going right back to the time of Ezra. Lo motzinu Elul mu'uba. It's true, there are psukim which show that in the time of Ezra, it was actually longer. It was a 30-day month, but from then on, it was never made longer than a 29-day month. As we know, it's up to the Bezdin. It'll come up later on in Daf Chof Gimel that we see they have the power. Even if the Eidim come forward and say they saw the moon, they could still delay if they wanted to. And what we're saying here, never happened that Elul was more than 29 days. So if that's the case, you always know when Rosh Hashanah is going to be once you know the first of Elul, and once you know the first of Rosh Hashanah, first of Tishri, you'll know the 10th and you'll know the 15th. Says the Gemara, Lo motzinu de lo itzrich. It's true. They never found that it was necessary to make it longer, make Elul longer. Ha itzrich ma brinon le. It is still, however, theoretically possible that they might want to make Elul longer. What does he mean? Have a look at Rashi. What do you mean, ha itzrich? Now, normally, they'd be working up to Rosh Hashanah and Yom Kippur. Have a look at Itzrich, interesting Rashi. And that's based on the Gemara that's coming up in Daf Chof. Imishum Yake, Imishum Messiah. Now, we're not really going to go into that topic here because it's on the next Omud, which means the following. People, maybe we've mentioned this principle before. One of the rules is Lo Odu Rosh. Lo Odoi Rosh, Lo Odu Rosh. If you remember, Rosh Hashanah, they didn't want Rosh Hashanah to fall on a Sunday, Aleph, Dalet, Bob, Lo Odu Rosh. They don't want Rosh Hashanah to fall on a Sunday, a Wednesday, or a Friday. Why not? The Gemara gives two reasons, Daf Chof Amud Beis, actually Daf Chof Amud Aleph, as we'll see. One of the reasons was, give you one of the examples, if Rosh Hashanah fell on a Friday, when would Yom Kippur be? Yom Kippur will be on a Sunday. If Rosh Hashanah was on a Wednesday, the first on a Wednesday, do this the arithmetic. If Rosh Hashanah is on a Wednesday, then Yom Kippur will be on a Friday. They don't want Yom Kippur to fall on a Friday or a Sunday. Why not? Sadly, if someone passes, when it comes to Yom Kippur or Shabbos, there are no levayos. Yom Tov, a normal Yom Tov, Yom Kippur is different to the rest of the other Yomim Tovim. Other Yomim Tovim, it might be possible, maybe with non-Jews to be able to dig, but not on Yom Kippur and not on Shabbos. They don't want to have 2 days where they may have to wait that long until a funeral took place. And I'll say more of that on Daf Chof. The other example, on a Sunday, if it falls on a Rosh Hashanah on a Sunday, which means Sukkot will be on a Sunday, Shmini Atzeres will be on a Sunday. It means, therefore, depending on the weather, if you wanted, interesting, fresh vegetables, you'd have to pick your vegetables, let's say on the Friday, and it would have to last you over a couple of days. And they were worried that maybe a very hot, we haven't got the refrigeration, well be that those vegetables wouldn't be very good for Yom Tov, and therefore they preferred not to have Yom Tov, as I say, like you'd have a Shabbos and then a Yom Tov. Because if you're plucking your vegetables prior to Shabbos, it would have to last you Shabbos and Sunday before you'd be plucking more vegetables. They didn't really want that. But the bottom line is this. We can see, therefore, that it is possible that the Chachamim might want to make Elul longer. Now, normally, they could see this coming. What does that mean? They would stick with Elul being 29 days, because everybody knows and loves Elul being 29 days, and that's wonderful, because then you can predict when Rosh Hashanah was going to be. And what they would do, if they could see that it looked like Rosh Hashanah was going to be on one of those 3 days, Aleph, Dalet, Vov, they would sort themselves out earlier on in the year in Tammuz and Av, push out an extra day so that that shouldn't happen. But it could happen even with all of that, that they're left with the calculations that Rosh Hashanah was going to fall on a Sunday, Wednesday, Friday, which would therefore mean they try to change and push out Elul and make it an extra day. So what the Gemara is saying is, seeing as it's still theoretically possible that Elul will be 30 days, they would send out Eidim to say exactly when the first of Tishri was. You with me? So what would happen? Let's go back again. Once you've got the first of Elul, wouldn't say extrapolate, but you just add your 29 days. You'd assume it's a 29-day month and make the next day Rosh Hashanah. What would happen if it was actually 30-day month, or even if it was a 29? They would send witnesses out to say exactly when was the first of Tishri. Because if it was a day longer, it's true, they got Rosh Hashanah wrong. There are other Yomim Tovim. Have a look here at the Gemara. I've already preempted the Gemara here. Have you got him? Lo motzinu de lo itzrich. Ho itzrich ma'abrinon lei is the beginning of the line. So again, what would happen? You'd make an assumption. Once you knew the first of Elul, you'd make an assumption it's going to be a 29-day month. Indeed, from the time of Ezra, it was always 29 days. They did their very best to ensure it was a 29-day month when Rosh Hashanah would be. Nevertheless, it's possible that Elul, theoretically, could be a 30-day month. They would send out messengers to tell everybody when exactly the first of Tishri was. Says the Gemara, there's a big problem with that. Homer Kalkel Rosh Hashanah. If you send and you do make Rosh Hashanah 30 days, then what does that mean? Have a look at Rashi. Homer Kalkel Rosh Hashanah. De Nimtza, if you're making Elul a 30-day month, and everybody assumed it was a 29-day month, it turns out, says Rashi, De Nimtza will then find Shalo Osur B'nei Agola, anybody outside from Elul onwards, anybody making Rosh Hashanah outside, certainly outside Yerushalayim, beyond, they would not have made halachi ma'abrim Elul. If you suddenly do make Elul that extra day, everybody, therefore, has had Rosh Hashanah on the wrong day. Yeah? Now, this is very nice, the way we learned before, that people would assume, and certainly earlier on, there was a 1 day, as we saw before. Nowadays, we do have 2 days Rosh Hashanah, but originally it was based on this assumption. They would make 1 day Rosh Hashanah, but they would have got the wrong day. Says the Gemara, okay, mutav to kalkel Rosh Hashanah. It's better, yes, retrospectively, they actually kept the wrong day for Rosh Hashanah. Much as they went according to majority. Majority means it will be on after 29 days, and you can do that. The ruling of the Torah says follow the majority, and we will follow the majority. But retrospectively, it turns out that that actually was not Rosh Hashanah. Says the Gemara, it's better to do that. Rather than having the other Yomim Tovim. In other words, what we're really saying is don't intercalate, but if you have to intercalate, you've got to make Elul, give that extra day, so be it. And it would therefore mean the people didn't actually keep Rosh Hashanah on the right day, but at least they'll be keeping Yom Kippur, and they'll be keeping Sukkot on the correct day. That's what we're saying here. Says the Gemara, Dai Kanami, we can even actually be medayik this. We can infer this from the Mishnah. Diktoni, you go out for Tishri, b'bnei takonas hamoedos. Have a look at Rashi.
Norman,
Daikanami.
second.
Let's just have a look at the Rashi. De la hocha choshu rabbonon. De lo lekalkale shamoedos. They were concerned. They didn't want. Sometimes they didn't want to ensure that Elul was going to be 29 when it really needs to be a 30. And as we said before, as we said, we don't want to have, for example, Rosh Hashanah falling on a Sunday, Wednesday, Friday. So they may have to push it out. To do that, ensure the Rosh Hashanah wouldn't fall on those days. It may mean that they'll have to make Elul, give it that extra day. So be it, says Rashi. Even though those people outside Yerushalayim would have got the wrong day, it's more important that they will get the correct day according to their according to their announcements for Yom Kippur and Sukkot. Are you with me? So what we're saying here is the following. You do send Eidim out for Tishri. We thought it's a done deal. Once you know the first of Elul, you'll for sure know the first of Tishri. Says the Gemara, you're right. 99.9% chance that it will be a 29th, but it might not be. And if it won't be, we've got to tell everybody. Why would the rabbis do that? They might have to do that. They couldn't maybe make this one the earlier months longer. So therefore, they might have to make this a longer month. That's Elul. And therefore, it's better that they will keep, therefore, Yom Kippur and Sukkot on the right days. And they will therefore tell everybody that situation. They will make Elul that one day longer. It doesn't matter. People will be following the rule, which is Acharei Rabin. You follow the majority, as we saw in Rashi, Tosfos. Generally, it was going to be a 29-day month, and that's fine. We're therefore following the general pattern, and therefore that was the day they would keep Rosh Hashanah. Very interesting. They'd be keeping that as Rosh Hashanah, but they may actually be making Yom Kippur and Sukkot a day later than they would have planned it to be, but that doesn't matter. That's what we're saying here. So it's fascinating halacha.
It is fascinating.
Oh, sorry.
No, Mervyn, go.
Who's on? Mervyn, you're on first?
I'm not on. I'm just older. I'm not on first. That's all.
Okay.
Okay, fine. All right.
Oh, somebody had something to say.
Okay, can I ask the
I
whole?
did. Okay. I just was asking. It seems to me tautology. This thing we may extend Elul so that about this business about the picking fresh fruit, so there'll be fresh fruit on the second day of Yom Tov. But I mean,
well, no. Take the other example.
So if you don't have to have a second day of Yom Tov. I mean, if we always knew that Elul was
no, the first day of Yom Tov.
He said, well, I thought the
Well,
notes said the
let's take
second
the other
day.
example. It's a simpler example. Yom Kippur falling on a Friday or a Sunday. They don't want
about the fruit one. Okay.
All right, the fruit one. The first day of Yom Tov will be on a Sunday, which means, therefore, that food may be going off very quickly. They don't want to have 2 days, Shabbos and a Sunday. Sunday will be the Yom Tov without having fresh food.
And they can so vegetables could be picked fresh for the second of these 2 holy days.
No, 1 minute.
That is,
No, so that
no.
if Yom Tov is on a Sunday,
Yeah.
then what if Yom Tov? No, the easier example is the other one, isn't it? If Yom Tov is going to be on, well, it's either of those. If it's on a Sunday, if Yom Tov will be on a Sunday, let's stick with that. So therefore, when will they have to prepare everything? On the Friday.
Yeah.
So they're preparing everything on Friday for Shabbos and Sunday. So by the time you got to Sunday, it's a very hot, imagine a hot summer as it in fact was this year. Without refrigeration, it could be very difficult. So
vegetables for the second day, which would be
no, the second day of the Shabbos Sunday.
Okay, all right, okay.
I know. I don't mean the second day. No. I don't mean the second day of Yom Tov. They're keeping one day Yom Tov, But that one day Yom Tov is going to fall on a Sunday. If it falls on a Sunday, it's going to end up with people preparing, and even if you're picking
But
things
what
on
about
Friday,
you allow it for Pesach? You allow
beg
that.
pardon?
You allow Pesach to be on a Sunday. I know that's the only time, but Pesach first day is a Sunday. Sometimes it's inconvenient, but it happens.
Yeah, that's true. So what's the 1 minute? What are you worried about? There you're talking about in the springtime. It's you haven't got the hot weather that you might be having, as we had this year, extremely hot over Rosh Hashanah, Yom Kippur, Sukkot. You won't have that weather in Nisan. That's not a worry. But you're okay, yeah. More of that in Daf Chaf. I'm not pushing you off, but it does come up Daf Chaf Amud Aleph. But I think that's the answer. The concern is having Rosh Hashanah and there's a couple of points you've got there. Number one, if Rosh Hashanah is going to be on a Sunday, so will be the first day of Sukkot, so will be Shmini Atzeres. So you've ended up with 3 days like that. And in summertime, I mean, we're talking about September or maybe even late August. You could be very hot, and they don't want to do that. Not just Eretz Israel, other places too. And we're talking about, down in Bovel. Apparently, I haven't been to Bovel recently, but and Bovel apparently it gets even hotter, and it will be quite a concern. Whereas Nisan, springtime, it's never quite that hot. I mean, even if it's earlier in the year, if anything, it'll be too cold rather than too hot in Pesach time. Don't normally have these high temperatures. That's really what we're saying.
Why we were all worried about disturbing the other Yom Tov as opposed to Rosh Hashanah? Why is Rosh Hashanah less important in regard to calculate Rosh Hashanah?
No. When you say it's less important.
Well, it's not important. They say Mutav to Kalka Rosh is better than Rosh Hashanah is disrupted.
Yeah, because you look at the numbers. You'll get Rosh Hashanah. Otherwise, at least then you've got Yom Kippur. They'll know about Yom Kippur, Sukkot, Shmini Atzeret.
The aggregate of them, you mean?
Yes, that's right.
All right.
Yes.
Okay.
Making sure the aggregate is right rather than just one of. Yeah. Yeah, is that right? Yeah, it is a tricky piece. But yeah, so that's what we're saying. So they went out for Tishri, but as we said before, the vast majority of occasions it would have actually been a 29-day month, and that would be it. Of course, nowadays as well, even in the calendar, it's not one of those months that can change. Where if you're talking about Cheshvan and Kislev, those months can change. Sometimes 29, sometimes 30. So watch out. Of course, if there's a Yortzeit on those days. Remember, we have the last days of Hanukkah, because coming at the end of Kislev into Teves, Kislev itself can be 29 or 30. Elul is fixed, always 29 days. And as we've seen here in the Gemara, it was always 29. They wanted, see that way, everybody's got the date. They know it's going to be the when Rosh Hashanah will be, and that date that they've worked out for Rosh Hashanah indeed will be correct. Yeah, but they have got that opportunity theoretically to change it if they have to, and so it's nice just to confirm that with people, just in case people think that maybe there's been for other reasons too. They've got the power to do that, which itself is amazing. The power of the Chachomim they can delay the Rosh Chodesh, even though the moon was seen, they can delay it that extra day. Okay? So, moving on now swiftly to Kislev and Adar. Says the Gemara about Kislev mipnei Chanukah and Adar mipnei Purim. So Hanukkah, and they're going out for Hanukkah and Purim. Okay. Now here's a wonderful example of the rule of, you talk about pi, the punctuation is crucial when you're learning the Gemara, and also the intonation is important. So it's a punctuation, you've got to be able to read the words, and you've got to get the right tune, if you see what I mean. There's a long sentence here, and I'll read it. Ve'ilu nisabra hashon. Ve'ilu nisabru hashona v'yotzin af al adar sheni b'nei hapurim lo katoni. That whole statement has not been written in the Mishnah, and I'll read what I'll explain it. Ve'ilu, had it been nisabra hashona, if imagine there's going to be it's a leap year, right? As we are in right now. Nisabra hashona. Now, yotzin afal adar, the Mishnah does not mention that there's a possibility of going out also, not just for Adar Rishon, Adar Sheni as well, because of Purim. Have a look at Rashi. Peter, if you could put people on the mute. Very good. Ve'ilu in this Abra Hashona. Have a look at Rashi here. After Shenichnas Adar Rishon. So they went out for Adar Rishon, okay, because our Mishnah says they go out for Adar. What happens? Normally, of course, they would try, if they were planning, and it was like obvious there's going to be an extra month because everything's so early on in the year, they need that extra month. It may be obvious. They would try and tell everybody as soon as possible that this year is going to be a leap year. But they have that possibility. Imagine they thought, it's on the border, should it be or shouldn't be? And then by the time they get to Adar, they still notice it's so cold, it's really wintry. We do need that extra month. So what happens after Adar has already entered, Rashi, Adar Rishon, after that, they've sat down, they've decided we really do need another month. We cannot have Nisan in the snow. So what did they decide to do? They extended and they said there will be an extra month. What should happen now? The Mishnah does not mention that possibility that if they made Adar Sheni, they made an extra month, that you'd have to send out witnesses for that as well. Read the Rashi again. La'achar shenichnas Adar Rishon v'holchu shluchim. And the shluchim have already gone out for the first month. Yoshvu Bezdin, the Bezdin sat down again. Iyanu from Lashon Ayin. They looked into the situation, weather, growth, V'ibruha, and they made it an extra, gave it an extra month, Lashon Uberes, an extended year. Lasas Adar Hasheni Achazeh. That's not mentioned in the Mishnah that the Eidim should go out for Adar Sheni. You with me? So, back to our Gemara. I'll read it again. Ve'ilu, if Nis Abra Hashona, if the month, the year intercalated, it's got that extra month. Yodzin Afal Adar Sheni Mipnei Purim, they also go out for Adar Sheni because of Purim. All of that in inverted commas. Lo Katoni Masnisin, or Lo Katoni, that's better. Lo Katoni, that's not learned. Again, if you look at our Mishnah, we've got, you go out for Chanukah, and you go out for Adar. It does not mention, but if it's going to be a leap year and you only find out about it after Adar Rishon, you go out for Adar Sheni, which sounds like, therefore, you don't go out for Adar Sheni. What did these people think? So, hold on, I'll just close the door, make it a bit quieter. Bit quieter. It sounds like from the Mishnah, imagine the Eidim have gone out for Adar Rishon. That means everybody thought Purim was going to be in Adar. There was only one Adar. That's what they thought. Then they decide to make an extra month. What happens now? It's not mentioned in the Mishnah that that is one of the months that they have to go out for. So what does that mean? It means people would have kept Purim in the first month. What about Purim in the second month? Have a look at the Gemara. Masnisin, our Mishnah, Delo Karebi, is not like the view of Rebbe. Why? What does Rebbe hold? To Sanya. Rebbe Omer, Rebbe says, Imnis Abra Hashona, if the year has been lengthened, it's a leap year, Yoitzin Afal Adar Sheni Mipnei Purim, you would have to go out a second time for Purim. Interesting. So Rebbe says if there's an extra month and you only find out about it after, of course, if you knew about it a couple of months ago, then you wouldn't go out for Adar Rishon, would you? Because Adar Rishon, it's not in, there's no Yom Tov in Adar Rishon. Purim is in Adar Sheni. But if you didn't know about it until the month has already started, wouldn't you think you'd have to go out to tell everybody, boys, the next month, it's now going to be Purim, but they've already kept Purim. Says the Gemara, Lema Bahol Kamifagi. This could be the argument between our Mishnah and the view of Rebbe. What's that? Dama Sova, one holds Kol mitzvahs hanagos b'sheni nagos b'rishon. Any mitzvahs that you're doing in, which you normally would do in the second month of Adar, that means Purim, nagos b'rishon. What do you mean nagos b'rishon? You could get away with performing them in Adar Rishon as well. Look at Rashi. Nagos Barishon, V'yotzu Yedei Chavosin. People have fulfilled their obligation, but Purim she'osu Barishon. So what we're saying is this: it could well be that our Mishnah holds, you know what? You don't send Eidim out, even if they only made that a leap year into Adar Rishon, because whatever they've kept for Purim, they're Yotze. With me? Umar, back to our Gemara. Umar Sova, whereas Rebbe holds, Kol mitzvahs hanagos b'sheni ein nagos b'rishon. You cannot get away with performing Purim in Adar Rishon. Therefore, you've got to send out Eidim. Whereas in our Mishnah says no. The fact that you've thought it's fine. You've got an option, either Adar Rishon or Adar Sheni. These people kept Purim in Adar Rishon because that's when they didn't know at that point it was going to be a leap year. That's fine. That's why there's no point sending out Eidim in Adar Sheni, because everybody who kept Purim in Adar Rishon, it's fine. There's a big question on this though. Look at Tosfos. Masnisid. What are we saying? We're saying our Mishnah is of the opinion you don't have to send witnesses out for the second Adar. Why not? Because you were Yotze, the mitzvahs, in the first Adar. There's another very important reason why our Mishnah, even if you are Yotze mitzvahs in the first Adar Rishon, you've still got to go out for Adar Sheni. Why? Look at Tosfos. V'im Toima. Latana didon, our Tana. What does our Tana hold? You only, once you've gone out for Adar Rishon, and then you made that year a leap year, you don't need to go out for Adar Sheni. Says Tosfos, what do you mean? If you don't go out for Adar Sheni, what will people think? They will think it's not a leap year. Heich yodu shenisabra hashana. How are people going to know that the year is a leap year? Do you understand? Our Gemara and our Mishnah does not include the occasion where they went out for Adar Rishon, subsequently the year is a leap year. You don't need to go out for Adar Sheni. Why not? Our suggestion in the Gemara at the moment is because all the mitzvahs of Purim that you did in Adar Rishon, that's fine. You get your tick and that's fine. Adar Sheni is not going to be important. Says Tosfos, of course it's important. You need to know it's a leap year because otherwise you'll keep Pesach a month earlier than you should have done. says Tosfos, Bishloma, that's all very well. Im Ibruha Kodem Adar. If they've already announced that it's going to be a leap year, let's say Tishri, Cheshvan, earlier on. By then, when the Adar Rishon people go out, they would, it sounds like, what would they do? They would tell everybody, we've got to tell you, gentlemen, that in fact it is going to be a leap year this year. Fine. If they only make it a leap year after the first of a few days into Adar Rishon, Heiche Yoda, how will people know? You've got, in fact, the whole of Adar, if they really need to, we learned this actually earlier on, the worst comes to the worst, it could go right up to the end. They'd prefer, of course, before Purim, but if the worst comes to the worst and it's really the winter and it's extremely cold, right up to the end of the month, they can make an extra month. The question, therefore, is this. How can our Mishnah say you don't go out for the Adar Sheni? You've got to go out for Adar Sheni. If you make Adar Sheni in the middle of Adar, to tell everybody, ladies and gentlemen, there's an Adar Sheni this year. Answers Tosfos, v'yesh leima. Kiven the shluchim yotzim al Nisan. Everybody knows that the shluchim go out for Nisan. Mamela yoda, therefore they will automatically know kashiagia al Mishnah. When Rosh Chodesh comes, v'ein shluchim yotzim. If no witnesses are going out for Nisan, im kein hashonam uberes. It must be that the year is longer. That's why there are no shluchim going out. You with me? In other words, there is another way to tell everybody that this year actually is, or the previous year, or no, that's that year going up to Nisan has been a leap year because they will know by inference. The fact that no witnesses are going out in Nisan is a giveaway that in fact the year must be a leap year because they always go out for Nisan. Tricky. Now, if I can ask you, Peter, to do a safari on this daf, or actually, no, go to the safari first. Go to Talmud. Actually, no, go up on top where it says search and put in Rashash, R-A-S-H. Oh, now, Rush. Now you can go down. It's 1, 2, 3, the fifth one down, the fifth one. Yes, that's what we want. Here we are, an independent scholar, Reb Shmuel Straschen, we've often mentioned him, former of the communities. They allowed him to devote himself to the poor. Notations found the back of as it is, right? Died in 1872. Let's go to Rashash on the Talmud. Go to Rosh Hashanah. There he is, Rosh Hashanah, yes. Click 19b. That's what we want. On the Tosfos, thank you very much. Where it says Tov Daled Hey, paragraph number 2. Tov Daled Hey sounds for Tosfos, Dibur Hamaschil, which means a statement which begins with Masnisin, that's the Tosfos we've been looking at, okay? And the Tosfos begins with the Intoma, if you'll ask, which is a question, etc. Okay? Keep moving your finger there. Ayin gam beture oven lekamon. Okay, fine. He's telling you to look at the ture oven, who's the shagasari. Right, now what? The next piece is important. Ula anias dati, which means, in my humble opinion, exactly that. La anios dati, my humble opinion. Next line. Hochinami. No, the question of Tosfos, in my humble opinion, doesn't start. Of course they go out for other Sheni. No, not to tell them it's other Sheni, but to tell them it's a leap year. To carry on, de be'emes hoyu shuluchin yoitzim al iba hashona. They do go out for the extra to tell everybody it's a leap year. Our Mishnah doesn't reckon them, this point. Remember, again, what was Tosfos' question? Our Mishnah says they don't go out to tell everybody that it's Adar Sheni. Why? And we think at the moment because you can keep all the mitzvahs in Adar Rishon. Ask Tosfos, but you're going to have to go out anyway to tell everybody it's a leap year. Says, you're right, you will. Our Mishnah isn't talking about that. Our Mishnah is talking about going out to tell everybody when Rosh Chodesh is, not when it's a leap year. So you're quite right, Tosfos. It's not a question. Again, second line, our Mishnah, lo choshev, is not reckoning out rak only hashluchim al kvias hachadoshim, to tell me when the Rosh Chodesh starts. But according to Rebbe, Yotzin Afal Kavias Rosh Chodesh Adar Beis, you would go out for, but not to tell everybody what the day was. That's not important. The important point was to tell everybody it's a leap year. You with me? So the Rashash is suggesting an alternative answer to the Tosfos question. Again, Tosfos' question was, it's true, our Mishnah says you don't go out for Rosh Chodesh to tell people when Rosh Chodesh Adar Sheni was. You don't need to. Said Tosfos, of course you need to. You've got to tell them when it's a leap year. Says Rashash, you're right. But our Mishnah doesn't need to mention that. So all's very good. You with me? Our Mishnah is only reckoning out when do Eidim, which months they need to go out for to tell people when the month started. It's true. Of course, they will go out for Adar Sheni, says the Rashash, to tell people, you need to know it's going to be a leap year this year. But it's not crucial what day it is, according to Rebbe. Why not? Because whatever they've done at the moment in Adar Rishon, they've done their mitzvah. But just to tell people when, not to tell people when the day is, when Rosh Chodesh fell, but to tell people that this year it will be a leap year.
So
are you happy with that? Yeah. Thank you, Peter. We can go back now to seeing everyone.
is the difference not trying to pun, but I'm wondering if the difference is whether they need to rush out for the Rosh Chodesh.
Yes,
They want to try and get there on Rosh Chodesh on the day to say today's Rosh Chodesh, whereas for the leap year they just need to make sure they get there before the 14th to say it's not going to be Pesach.
Yes.
Otherwise, what's the practical difference between these two different types of shluchin?
No, and I think you're right. They would be rushing in both cases, but they're rushing for a different purpose.
But if it's to tell you it's Rosh Chodesh today,
right? Our Mishnah says al shish chadoshim shluchim yotzim. They go out to tell people what day was the Rosh Chodesh. According to the Rashash, they are witnesses of going out, not to tell me what day. That's not important, but to tell everybody, it's a leap year this year. Okay, that's all they're telling them. Yeah, and according to Rebbe at the moment, the mitzvahs they've done in the Adar Rishon would count. That's what we think at the moment, but they are still going out. So therefore, he's answering Tosfos' question. Our Mishnah that we're talking about, which was on Daf Yud Ches, is only talking about the months they go out to tell people which day it fell on. You with me? That's the Rishash. Thank you, the Rishash. However, Al Gemara now throws this out. The suggestion, Mervin's got his hand up. Does he want to say hello or?
Well, both.
Both. Hello.
The point is, I don't. When did they make the leap year? They didn't. Are you suggesting that in February they'd say it's a bit cold still? It's going to be too.
Normally, as you say, like a year like this year, it's pretty clear. Everything's so early on.
Yeah, but when would they? When would they? When would the?
They could announce it. We learned that before, if you remember. It goes back a long way. They can announce it any time up to the end of Adar. They can say there's going to be another Adar. Once you've gone beyond that, it's too late. It'll have to be Nisan. So normally, of course, they're trying to give people as much notice as possible. If they knew for sure, as they can see that, everything's so early on in the year, there's bound to be an extra month, they will tell people as soon as possible. But if it's, doubt it could go either way, and they decide, and there are lots of ways they decide whether it should be actually there should be that extra month. If they feel it really does need that extra month, they could do so well into Adar. They try to do it before Purim, but if not, at least they do it by the end of the month. They've got to do it by the end of the month.
And how's it done nowadays? What is the calculation? Whether there's
now as it's all calculated by Hillel II, we have a calendar which calibrates everything and ensures that everything falls into the 19-year cycle. So we're going round in a 19-year cycle, and that's why we know when the latest time Sukkot will ever be, when the latest time Pesach will ever be, and when the earliest time it will be. And we've got these fixed years, remember the 3, 6, 8, 11, 14, 17, 19, in the 19-year calendar, they're always leap years. Very simple, just divide the year, 5782, divide it by 19. Somebody may have a calculator there. 57, where are we up to? 5782, what am I talking about? 5782 divided by 19. It's a 19-year cycle. What's the remainder? In a fraction, please.
So it's 0.315.
Yeah, what's that in as a fraction?
Oh, it's a fraction.
In 19ths.
It's 304 is the main number.
Right, and how many remaining if you do the old longhand division? If people remember that. So it's 19.
Six.
Thank you very much, Peter. And as we said before, year 6 is a leap year, and that's exactly what it is now. It's the 6th year. 3, 6. In fact, so people, news for you, 2 years' time will also be a leap year. It's not a 3-year gap, it's a 2-year gap coming up. 3, 6, 8. So in answer to your question, Mervyn, it's now fixed, but it's fixed that it should fit in, basically. Obviously, some years it's a bit warmer. You have this year, it's pretty clear having Sukkot so early that there was going to be the leap year. And then there'll be one in 2 years' time. That won't be that obvious, but it has to be able to fit in the 19-year cycle when the lunar and the solar calendar then ties in, because otherwise we end up with having Sukkot, Pesach. It's got to be in the spring. It won't be in the spring. It'll be, the wrong way of spring, either in the winter or the summer. Okay, so that's fixed now. So on we go. Says the Gemara at the moment. We think the reason, so we've discussed Rishash. At the moment, we think the following. The reason why our Mishnah does not say that you need to go out, even if they made the leap year late in Adar, you won't have to go out for Adar Sheni just to tell people the dates. You may be going out sometime to tell people. I suppose once it's announced, you're going to be sending people out to tell people it's going to be a leap year. You with me? But you won't be sending out people to say when is the first of Adar Sheni. We think the reason for that is because whatever you've done in Adar Rishon is fine, as long as you know it's a leap year. The mitzvahs you've done in Adar Rishon for Sukkot, for Purim were fine. Says the Gemara, no, that's not true. Beginning of line is Ein Noagos B'Rishon. Says the Gemara, no, it's not true. Because the Kula Alma Mitzvahs Hanoagos B'Sheni Ein Noagos B'Rishon. No, mitzvahs that you do in Adar Rishon do not count if there's going to be a leap year. Woo. So, says the Gemara, V'hocha be'ibur shana kol miflegi. What does that mean? Tesanya, kama ibur shana, how many days is the ibur shana going to be? Have a look at Rashi. Kama ibur hashana yemei adar harishon she'oisin oisin ibur l'shana. Well, actually, we always talk about Adar Sheni being the leap month. In fact, it's not. It's Adar Rishon, which is the leap month. It's converted from being a normal Adar into a leap month. I know we call Adar Sheni, because Adar Sheni is the main Adar. The extra month is Adar Rishon. Now, there's a machlokas how many days that was. The Sanya, Kama Ibashana Shloshim Yom. Rabbi Shimon Gamliel Omer Chodesh. What does that mean? Let's look at the first view. The first view says everybody knows that the Ibur Shana is 30 days, right? It's a fixed. That first month will always be 30 days. So it goes like this. Once you know that it's an Ibur Shana, then you know that that month. So what happened? Let's go back again. Where are we up to? It's going to be a 30-day month. That first month. Once you know the first of Adar Rishon, you will know when Purim's going to be. Yeah, it's always going to be. Even if you do make that a leap month, it's always going to be a 30-day month. With me? So as long as you know it's a leap year, you don't need Eidim to go out. We thought you've got to tell Eidim that they need to know what day to keep the second Purim. You don't need that because you know it's always going to be a 30-day month. All you need to know is it's a leap year. Once you know it's a leap year, then you know exactly when Purim will be. So even if you've kept that first Purim, you'll have to do the same thing again, but you know when to do it. You with me? And it's not necessary to go out for Adar Sheni to say when Purim's going to be, because if you know that the first Adar is always 30 days, you can count 30 days, and then you can count another 14, and you've got to Purim. It may well be you've already done Purim, so I'm sure an extra couple of drinks won't go amiss, which you'll have to do a second time round and have your Purim Suda and everything else on the second Purim. Okay? Rabbi Shimon Gamliel says it's a Chodesh. What does that mean? Because Salkadatach, we think, when he says a Chodesh, he means 29 days. Says Gemara, you're telling me the difference between, do you remember? Rebbe said you go out for Adar Sheni if it's been made an Adar Sheni in Adar Rishon. Why? Because we don't know when Purim Sheni, or the Purim in the second Adar, should be. We said our Mishnah says we know exactly when it's going to be, because it's always going to be a 30-day month. But 1 minute, Rabbi Shimon Gamliel says it's a Chodesh. A Chodesh means 29 days. So we also know how to calculate it. Why did Rabbi Yehuda HaNasi say that you've got to send witnesses out on for Adar Sheni if they make Adar Rishon, only in Adar Rishon, they've made that extra month? You won't need to know because you do a very simple calculation. Once you know the first of Adar Rishon, according to the second view, Rabbi Shimon Gamliel, who says Chodesh, it's a 29. You can also do 29 and then 14. Have I lost people here? So as there's the Gemara, how come we said, our Mishnah said that if you make a leap year in Adar Rishon, you don't need to especially go out for Adar Sheni because you know it's always going to be a 30-day month. Well, the alternative is it's going to be a 29-day month. So you also know when you don't need Aiden to go out. Why did Rebbe say that if you make a leap year in Adar Rishon, you have to go out for Adar Sheni so that people will know exactly when Purim is? If they know it's a leap year, they can add 29 and 14. With me? Says the Gemara, we made a mistake. And you'll see how this hopefully come out clearly now. No. Man the Omar Chodesh, when Rabbi Shimon Gamliel said that the first Adar is always a Chodesh, he meant it's a month. And what's a month? Rotsa Chodesh, Rotsa Shloshim. No, what he meant by that was it could be 29, it could be 30. You with me? Have a look at the Rashi. Lamanda Omar Chodesh Nami. Ein Tzorech Lodi, you don't need to make it known. The first Adar is always 29. That's what we thought is the view of Rabbi Shimon Gamliel. On B'Yom Shloshim, on the 30th day will be Rosh Chodesh, and then you'll count 14 days and you got to Purim. Says, come on, no, you made a mistake. And this is actually the concluding piece here. So let me make it very clear. The concluding piece is, if you have a leap year, how many days are in Adar Rishon? The first view says it's always 30 days. If it's always 30 days, you do not need to go out if you intercalate the year in Adar Rishon, because once you know it's a leap year, you know it's 30 days, and then you can count another 14. Rabbi Shimon ben Gamliel, which is the same as Rabbi Yehuda HaNasi, actually, of course, an ancestor of Rabbi Yehuda HaNasi, he says Chodesh, which means, have a look at Rashi, Rotzu Chodesh, Rotzu Shloshim. Lefikach tzrichim loidia. Therefore, you do need to make known im osu mole or chose. You with me? Again, there's a machloikus between Rebbe and our Mishnah. Rebbe says if you make in Rosh Chodesh Rishon, you make it a leap year. Rebbe says you have to send witnesses out to tell people the date, the first of Adar Sheni. What's the reason for that? He says you must send people out because you don't know how long Adar Rishon will be. And you've got to have Purim, you've got to celebrate Purim in Adar Sheni. With me? Whereas, that's the view of Rabbi Shimon ben Gamliel. The Tana Kama says if it's all, again, according to I'll do it backwards, perhaps it'll be easier. The Tana Kama says that it's a 30 days, which means if it's 30 days, once you know the first of Adar Rishon, even if you make an Adar Sheni in Adar, you will know when Purim will be in Adar Sheni. You will count 30 plus 14. Not necessary to send people out for Adar Sheni. With me? In that instance. That is the view of our Mishnah. And our Mishnah says it's not mentioned that if you make an extra month and you only make the announcement of the extra month in Adar Rishon, you don't need to send anybody out because it's always going to be 30 days. Rebbe holds, like Rabbi Shimon ben Gamliel, his ancestor, that the Adar Rishon can be 30, can be 29. You therefore need to know if they therefore made a leap year in Adar Rishon, you're going to have to keep your Purim in Adar Sheni, but you don't know what day is Purim going to be. Therefore, because it could be 39 or 20 days in Adar Rishon, therefore, Rebbe says, in that instance, you would have to send Eidim out for Adar Sheni, so the people will know when to celebrate Purim, because the bottom line is this: Purim is always in Adar Sheni. There's got to be that link between Purim and Pesach. 1 month following the other, one Geula following another Geula, which means you've got, even if you held and you celebrated Purim in Adar Rishon, you'd have to do the same thing again if it was they actually late in the day, a very late call. They announce an Adar Sheni, you'd have to do all that again in Adar Sheni. So according to our Mishnah, you know exactly what date that will be. Because once you know the first of Adar Rishon, you can count 30 plus 14. According to Rebbe, who says, you don't, because the Adar Rishons could be 30 or 29, you don't know. Therefore, witnesses would have to go out to tell everybody when was the first of Adar Sheni. Was it a 30-day month? Was it a 29-day month? And that way, they can keep Purim on the right day. But our Mishnah is following the view that no, it's always going to be a 30-day month, and there will be more. That's basically the end of this piece, more on the subject of Adar Rishon. Is it going to be a 30 or 29? A bit more of a development on that, all being well, next week. So at that point, I wish you well.